Temple bells echoed as dawn's mist curled through the mountain valley. The seeker bowed in silence, yet his heart throbbed with doubt. The teacher said, "A path once clear is now clouded." His words cut the morning air. The skeptic smirked, whispering, "Perhaps your silence has been wasted." The seeker's chest tightened, shame clashing with anger. The fellow disciple glanced at him with sympathy, but said nothing. The silent witness simply watched, still as stone. The teacher's voice thundered, "When the root is poisoned, the tree cannot bear fruit." The seeker felt exposed, his spirit unraveling before the assembly. Shadows of the past whispered in his memory. He clenched his hands, whispering to himself, "What have I lost?" In that moment, a fissure opened between who he thought he was and who he feared to become. The temple grounds, once sacred, now felt like a stage of judgment, where truth was no longer hidden but revealed. The narrator explained how silence weighed heavier than words. The seeker lifted his gaze, but his vision blurred with unshed tears. The teacher's eyes fixed on him, calm yet unyielding. "Truth cannot be hidden forever," the teacher said, each word echoing like a bell. The skeptic muttered, "Perhaps truth is only a convenient story." The seeker felt pierced by both voices, the harsh and the wise. The fellow disciple shifted, her hands clasped tighter, her silence speaking louder than comfort. The silent witness turned his head slightly, gaze unwavering. Within the seeker's chest, doubt roared like a storm. He whispered, "Am I lost already?" The morning sun broke through mist, harsh against his eyes. Every ray felt like a revelation too bright to endure. The temple ground beneath him seemed to shake, though no one else moved. In that trembling silence he felt his first fall. The teacher's voice deepened as he said, "A tree starved of water still stretches for the sky, but its roots rot unseen." The seeker flinched at the parable, feeling his heart rot beneath his discipline. The skeptic's laughter cracked the silence, bitter and sharp. "Your roots were never strong," he sneered. The fellow disciple looked down, shame and compassion entangled in her gaze. The seeker thought of long nights of meditation, sweat dripping, his mind restless, never still. He thought of every failure that clawed at him. He pressed his palms to the cold stones, whispering, "What if my roots are gone?" The teacher's silence spoke louder than judgment. The wind stirred the incense smoke into jagged shapes. The seeker felt stripped bare, as if every eye saw not his robes but his emptiness. The seeker's chest heaved as he searched for air that no longer comforted him. He remembered whispers from his past, shadows telling him he was never enough. The silent witness stood nearby, unmoved, his eyes reflecting still waters. The teacher said, "Even the strongest current cannot move stone rooted in truth." Yet the seeker felt like drifting sand, slipping further from himself. The skeptic's smirk widened, his silence now sharper than mockery. The fellow disciple's lips parted as if to speak, but she closed them again, leaving only her gaze as balm. The seeker muttered, "I have no anchor." The world swirled in haze, temple bells tolling faintly. Every strike felt like the end of something unnamed, something he had not the courage to face. The morning reached its peak as the sun poured down, scattering the mist. The teacher's words lingered like echoes etched into the seeker's bones. "To awaken, you must first shatter," the teacher said. The seeker felt his breath quake, the world spinning into fragments. He pressed his forehead to the cold stone, whispering, "Let me see." The skeptic's laughter faded, though his eyes glinted with cruel amusement. The fellow disciple leaned forward slightly, her presence warm despite her silence. The silent witness remained unblinking, as if carved from the mountain itself. The seeker's soul fractured, caught between despair and revelation. In that moment, he felt stripped of all masks, all pretense. For the first time, he knew he stood at the threshold of something vast, terrifying, and utterly unknown. The seeker sat alone beneath the shadow of the old cedar tree, his breath uneven, his robe heavy with dew. He whispered, "Every meditation feels hollow." His voice broke into the silence of dawn. The teacher's words from earlier echoed in his mind, cutting sharper than any blade. The skeptic's laughter haunted him, growing louder within his chest. He thought of long nights staring at empty walls, searching for meaning. His hands trembled as he gripped his robe, whispering, "What is left of me?" The fellow disciple approached but stopped, sensing his turmoil. She lowered her eyes, knowing comfort would fail. The silent witness passed by, his gaze steady, offering no words. The seeker buried his face in his hands, the weight of futility pressing hard. The temple bells tolled again, yet they brought no peace. He felt as if the world itself demanded answers he could no longer give. The teacher found him later, watching in silence before speaking. "The hollow you fear is only space for truth to enter." The seeker raised his head, eyes burning. "But I feel only emptiness," he said. The teacher's face remained calm, his gaze unmoved. "You cling to what must die." The seeker's heart twisted at the words. The skeptic's voice echoed in his memory, mocking every failure. He clenched his fists, whispering, "I cannot hold this much longer." The teacher walked away without explanation, leaving silence heavier than words. The fellow disciple lingered in the distance, torn between reaching out and stepping back. The seeker stared at the ground, the dirt blurring beneath his tears. He thought of his past, of every path chosen for approval, not for truth. His body shook, caught between collapse and defiance, yet no answer came. The seeker returned to the meditation hall, his body stiff as stone. He sat cross-legged, eyes closed, yet the silence roared louder than storms. He whispered inwardly, "Why does stillness feel like drowning?" His chest burned as he fought his own thoughts. Shadows of his failures surfaced, memories of nights when nothing brought peace. The skeptic's smirk appeared in his mind, cruel and unshakable. The teacher's words returned, simple yet unbearable. "You must break before you can be whole." The seeker dug his nails into his palms, until pain replaced thought. The fellow disciple sat across from him, serene, yet her calmness cut deeper than any blade. He envied her peace, despising himself for failing to find it. The incense curled upward, yet he felt suffocated. He whispered, "Even silence rejects me." His breath quivered as tears escaped against his will. The skeptic confronted him in the courtyard, arms folded, voice sharp. "Your path is nothing but shadows." The seeker's face flushed, his breath shallow. "You do not understand," he replied, though his own words rang hollow. The skeptic sneered, "Enlightenment is a lie for those afraid of reality." His eyes burned with certainty, his posture unyielding. The seeker's hands trembled, shame gnawing deeper with every word. The fellow disciple stood near, torn between silence and defense. Her gaze pleaded without speech, urging him not to break. The silent witness lingered under the archway, present still, offering no shield. The seeker whispered, "What if he is right?" His heart thundered, and his chest felt crushed by doubt. The bells rang again, hollow against his despair. He turned away, unable to hold the skeptic's gaze, afraid his spirit had already surrendered. Night fell heavy, cloaking the temple in silence. The seeker wandered to the edge of the mountain path, staring into darkness. Stars flickered above, yet they offered no comfort. He whispered, "Even the sky feels empty." His robe flapped in the cold wind, his body shivering. He thought of leaving, stepping into the void below, yet his feet stayed rooted. The teacher's words returned like fire, "Shatter, and you will awaken." His chest ached at the thought of breaking further. The fellow disciple approached quietly, placing her hand on his shoulder. She said nothing, her touch both anchor and reminder. The seeker closed his eyes, whispering, "I am afraid." The silent witness stood in the distance, watching under the pale moon. Shadows of the past lingered like chains, pulling him inward. He realized he was trapped not by the world, but by himself. The teacher assigned the seeker a task: sit in stillness from dusk until dawn without stirring. The seeker bowed, though fear crept into his chest. The skeptic whispered from the shadows, "He will break before sunrise." The seeker settled into the hall, the floor cold beneath him. Hours passed like storms. His legs numbed, his back ached, and his mind raged with unrest. He whispered, "I cannot hold." The incense smoke curled, mocking his weakness. The fellow disciple passed quietly, her presence calm yet unreachable. The silent witness stood in the corner, still as stone. The night stretched endlessly, each toll of the bell like a hammer against his will. His breath turned ragged, and pride collapsed into shame. Why must stillness feel like death, he asked himself. Dawn was far, and his spirit already frayed. By midnight, the seeker's body trembled. His breath was shallow, his palms pressed hard into his knees. He whispered, "I will endure." Yet his mind screamed against silence. Visions of his failures swarmed like vultures. The skeptic's voice mocked him, echoing louder. "This is proof of your weakness." The seeker bit his lip, tasting blood, clinging to pain as anchor. The teacher's earlier words echoed, "You must break." His eyes blurred, sweat dripping onto stone. The fellow disciple returned briefly, laying a candle near him before slipping away. Her silence felt like both blessing and torment. The silent witness still observed, unmoving. The seeker muttered, "If I move, I am lost. If I stay, I may shatter." The night thickened, pressing down on his soul. He was caged within both body and mind. The skeptic entered the hall, his smirk sharpened by shadows. "Look at you," he sneered, "pretending at strength when you're drowning in weakness." The seeker's fists clenched, his body rigid with fury. He whispered, "Leave me." The skeptic circled him like a predator, his voice dripping with disdain. "You seek peace in emptiness, you'll only find nothing." The seeker's chest burned, shame clashing with anger. His vision swirled, yet he held still, his pride tethering him to the stone. The fellow disciple entered, her eyes narrowing, silent yet firm. She bowed slightly, refusing the skeptic's venom. The silent witness remained in the shadows, unmoved. The seeker whispered, "I will not rise." Yet his body trembled, as though every breath might break him. The night pressed heavier, testing him beyond reason. The teacher entered silently, his presence shifting the air. He stood behind the seeker, saying, "When fire meets wind, it rages. When fire meets stone, it calms." The seeker gasped for breath, whispering, "I am fire with no anchor." The teacher's gaze remained steady, his silence heavier than his words. The skeptic scoffed, "He will never stand as stone." The fellow disciple bowed low, whispering softly, "Endure." The seeker's heart pounded, his pride screaming, his body crumbling. His chest ached as though breaking open. He whispered, "Why must breaking hurt this much?" The teacher turned, leaving without answer, his robes brushing against the floor like whispers of truth. The seeker's eyes filled with tears, his body trembling at the edge of collapse. Hours passed until dawn's light bled faintly through the windows. The seeker's body slumped forward, trembling uncontrollably. His voice cracked, "I am broken." The teacher's words echoed in memory, "You must break before you are whole." He collapsed fully, forehead against the cold stone, breath ragged. The skeptic's laughter filled the hall, cruel and victorious. The fellow disciple rushed forward, kneeling beside him, her hands hovering but not touching. She whispered, "Do not surrender." The silent witness stepped closer, his presence strong yet wordless. The seeker whispered faintly, "I cannot stand." Yet within his surrender, a strange stillness flickered. Dawn's rays cut through smoke, painting his tears gold. His fall became more than failure. It became the first fracture of awakening. The seeker woke at dawn, body sore, mind shattered. The teacher stood over him, his gaze piercing yet calm. "Your suffering is not in failure but in your grip upon perfection," he said. The seeker's eyes widened, his breath stilled. He whispered, "I thought I was broken." The teacher shook his head, robes swaying gently. "You are not broken, you cling to illusions that bind you." The skeptic scoffed nearby, Illusions are excuses for weakness. Yet his voice cracked slightly. The fellow disciple leaned forward, eyes soft, her presence an anchor. The silent witness remained unmoving, though his gaze felt like a mirror reflecting truth. The seeker whispered again, "Then what am I?" The teacher's silence was sharper than words, forcing him to feel the answer already within. The seeker staggered outside, the cool wind brushing his face. His chest heaved as he muttered, "If not broken, then what am I?" The catalyst appeared suddenly, a stranger with sharp eyes and a faint smile. The man whispered, "A mirror, cracked still, reflects the sky." The seeker flinched, confused. "Who are you?" he asked. The catalyst tilted his head, expression unreadable. "I am no one, and so are you." The words burned like riddles, leaving silence heavier. The skeptic shouted, "Do not listen. He is madness clothed in riddles." The fellow disciple's gaze softened, sensing meaning beyond words. The seeker clenched his fists, whispering, "Why do these words feel like truth?" The catalyst vanished as swiftly as he appeared, leaving only wind. The seeker shivered, as though the world had split open inside him. The seeker walked into the garden, his mind torn. He whispered, "The mirror crack still reflects." He touched the rough bark of the cedar tree, grounding himself. The teacher appeared nearby, silent, observing. The seeker turned, pleading, "Why do riddles cut deeper than truth?" The teacher's eyes softened. "Because truth cannot be told, only revealed." The skeptic sneered from the edge of the path. "This is nonsense. Words mean nothing." Yet his voice trembled with uncertainty. The fellow disciple placed a hand gently on the seeker's arm, her warmth calming. He whispered, "Then I was never broken, only trapped by myself." The teacher bowed his head slightly, as if affirming without words. The seeker's heart trembled with clarity, though fear still lingered at its edges. The skeptic stepped forward, his voice harsh. "You think riddles free you? They chain you deeper." The seeker's gaze locked on him, steady for the first time. "No," he whispered. "It is my grasping that chained me." The skeptic faltered, eyes narrowing as doubt flickered within. The teacher turned, walking away, his silence deliberate. The fellow disciple watched with quiet pride, her presence a reminder of peace possible. The silent witness leaned slightly forward, eyes calm as rivers, embodying the lesson without sound. The seeker's body relaxed for the first time in days, his breath even. "I am not broken," he whispered to himself again, stronger this time. The skeptic's smirk wavered, his certainty fractured. The wind swept through the temple grounds, carrying away the weight of yesterday's chains. That night, the seeker lay awake beneath the stars, his mind quiet for the first time. The teacher's words echoed, "Illusions bind you." The catalyst's riddle replayed, "A mirror, cracked, still reflects the sky." He whispered, "The crack does not erase the sky." The fellow disciple sat nearby, her presence serene, offering companionship without speech. The silent witness remained still under the moonlight, eyes reflecting endless calm. The skeptic sat apart, silent, his gaze lowered, no longer mocking. The seeker's chest loosened, the storm fading into clarity. For the first time, he did not fight the silence. He embraced it. The stars above shimmered, vast and eternal, yet no longer foreign. He whispered, "I was never lost, only blind." The night embraced him like a long-forgotten truth. The seeker entered the meditation hall again, the night heavy with silence. His body ached, his spirit worn thin. He whispered, "This is the end." The teacher stood behind him, calm and watchful. "The end is where truth is born," he said. The seeker knelt, forehead pressing against the cold stone. His chest heaved, breath unsteady, tears falling freely. The skeptic appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, whispering, "You collapse because you were never strong." The seeker did not raise his head. He whispered, "Perhaps strength is surrender." The fellow disciple placed a candle near him, her eyes filled with quiet faith. The silent witness observed from the shadows, unmoving. The seeker's pride cracked open, leaving only raw silence. His voice broke, "Take me where I cannot go alone." The night deepened as the seeker's body shook with exhaustion. He whispered, "I am broken." The teacher's voice echoed gently, "You are not broken, only empty enough to be filled." The skeptic laughed bitterly, though his voice faltered. "Emptiness is nothing but failure," he said. The seeker lifted his head, tears streaking down his face. "No," he whispered, "it is freedom." His voice carried trembling strength. The fellow disciple knelt nearby, her hands folded, her presence grounding him. The silent witness eyes glimmered in the dark, reflecting stillness. The seeker's chest loosened, as though a chain had fallen away. For the first time, he saw silence not as prison, but as release. He whispered, "This emptiness is my beginning." The hall seemed to breathe with him, alive in stillness. The seeker's collapse turned into stillness. He whispered, "I let go." His body slumped, but his breath became steady, calm. The teacher nodded slightly, his eyes glimmering with approval. "Now, you are closer to truth," he said. The skeptic watched, his smirk fading, unease carving his face. The fellow disciple exhaled deeply, as though she too had been holding her breath for him. The silent witness remained a pillar of silence, presence unshaken. The seeker closed his eyes, no longer resisting. "I am no longer the one searching," he whispered. The hall filled with a strange serenity, the weight of conflict dissolving. The teacher whispered softly, "This is surrender." The seeker felt light, as though the burden he had carried his whole life had lifted into the night air. The seeker's mind quieted for the first time. His body trembled, but within the trembling, peace bloomed. He whispered, "I see." The teacher's voice echoed, "Then you are no longer blind." The skeptic turned away, unable to meet the moment. His silence was louder than words. The fellow disciple placed her hand gently on the seeker's shoulder, her touch a thread of compassion. The seeker whispered, "The truth was never beyond me. It was always here." The silent witness leaned forward slightly, eyes gleaming with approval, though he spoke no words. The hall glowed softly in candlelight, shadows dancing like breath itself. The seeker inhaled deeply, the air no longer heavy. He whispered again, stronger, "I am free." In that instant, surrender became awakening. Dawn broke, painting the hall in golden light. The seeker lifted his head, his face serene though marked with tears. He whispered, "The silence holds me now." The teacher stepped forward, placing his hand gently on the seeker's shoulder. "You have seen the truth," he said. The skeptic lingered in the doorway, his face pale, no words left to wound. The fellow disciple bowed deeply, her eyes glistening with quiet joy. The silent witness turned toward the rising sun, embodying stillness. The seeker rose slowly, his body weak but his spirit unshaken. He whispered, "I am not lost." The temple bells rang, no longer harsh but harmonious, carrying his awakening into the morning air. For the first time, the world felt whole within him. The morning after his surrender, the seeker walked through the temple grounds. The air was crisp, the leaves whispering in the breeze. He whispered, "The world feels lighter." The teacher observed from the veranda, his eyes calm, his silence affirming. The skeptic trailed behind, his steps uncertain, words caught in his throat. The fellow disciple walked beside him, her presence radiating peace. The silent witness stood at the edge of the courtyard, his stillness reflecting eternity. The seeker paused by the cedar tree, hand on the bark, whispering, "I am no longer chasing." His chest expanded with an ease unknown to him. The temple bells rang gently, no longer sharp but harmonious, filling the space with serenity. He whispered again, "I see life with new eyes." The seeker sat by the koi pond, ripples shimmering under the sun. He whispered, "Every drop holds the sky." The fellow disciple joined him, her gaze gentle, reflecting calm. "Peace is not far," she said softly. He smiled faintly, whispering, "It was never far." The skeptic appeared, arms folded, his expression torn. He muttered, "You find peace in illusions." The seeker turned, his eyes steady, and whispered, "Peace is not illusion, it is acceptance." The skeptic looked away, shaken by the clarity in his voice. The silent witness watched from across the pond, eyes reflecting water's stillness. The teacher's voice echoed from afar, "The pond does not chase ripples, it reflects them." The seeker inhaled deeply, his breath calm, the air alive with quiet. Later, the seeker swept the temple path, each movement slow, deliberate. He whispered, "Even sweeping is prayer." The teacher watched quietly, his eyes softened by approval. The skeptic approached, voice sharp, "You believe peace can be found in chores." The seeker lifted his gaze, smiling gently. "Peace is in every step," he said. The fellow disciple walked past, her robe brushing stone, adding to the rhythm of silence. The silent witness paused near the archway, still as the mountain beyond. The skeptic's lips tightened, yet his eyes betrayed doubt. The seeker continued sweeping, each stroke calm, unhurried. The temple bell rang, its echo harmonizing with his breath. He whispered softly, "The path is not beyond me, it is beneath my feet." As evening fell, the seeker walked along the mountain ridge, wind brushing his robe. He whispered, "The world is vast, yet peace is small and near." The fellow disciple joined him, her gaze reflecting the sunset. She said softly, "You walk lighter now." He nodded, whispering, "Because I no longer carry what I once did." The skeptic followed at a distance, eyes heavy with thought. The silent witness walked behind, calm as the horizon. The teacher stood at the ridge's edge, his silhouette against the sky. "The mountain does not move," he said. The seeker bowed slightly, whispering, "Nor does peace when rooted within." The wind roared, yet within it, the seeker felt stillness unshaken. His steps fell into harmony with the earth below. Night embraced the temple, stars scattered across the sky. The seeker sat in the courtyard, eyes lifted upward. He whispered, "I am small, yet whole." The teacher's voice carried from the shadows, "To be whole is to need nothing more." The skeptic sat apart, silent, his expression softened, no words left to fight. The fellow disciple rested nearby, her calm presence a reflection of his peace. The silent witness stood against the temple gate, still and steady under moonlight. The seeker exhaled, feeling the world inside and outside as one. He whispered, peace was never distant. The temple bell rang once, low and resonant, blending with the hum of the night. The stars shimmered above, eternal witnesses to his awakening acceptance. The dawn painted the mountains in soft gold as the seeker stood at the temple gate. He whispered, "I am here." His voice carried into the wind, light yet grounded. The teacher stepped beside him, eyes reflecting serenity. "To be here is all that is needed," he said. The skeptic lingered behind, silent, no longer mocking, his face shadowed by thought. The fellow disciple bowed slightly, her smile faint, her presence radiant. The silent witness leaned against the gatepost, still as always, his gaze eternal. The seeker felt the earth beneath his feet and the sky vast above, no longer divided. He whispered again, "The path is not ahead, it is now." The bells rang gently, their resonance soft as breath. The seeker walked into the garden, morning dew glistening on the grass. He paused by the pond, watching koi stir ripples across the surface. "I was chasing," he whispered, "but peace was already within." The fellow disciple joined him, her calm presence echoing his words without reply. The teacher's voice carried from the veranda, "When chasing ends, living begins." The skeptic stood nearby, eyes lowered, his silence carrying the weight of change. The silent witness sat at the pond's edge, gaze steady, unmoved by time. The seeker smiled faintly, a lightness spreading through his chest. He whispered, "I am no longer seeking, I am found in the present." The ripples faded into stillness, reflecting sky and self together. The seeker entered the meditation hall once more, Yet this time, the silence felt alive. He sat cross-legged, spine straight, breath steady. "This stillness is not prison," he whispered. "It is freedom." The teacher entered quietly, observing with approval. The skeptic lingered at the doorway, unable to mock, his eyes reflecting inner conflict. The fellow disciple bowed deeply, her calm radiating in the hall. The silent witness remained against the wall, eyes half closed, eternal in presence. The seeker inhaled, exhaled, the hall breathing with him. He whispered again, "I was never lost." The temple bell rang once, not as judgment, but as affirmation. Peace spread through the room, soft and unshaken. Later, the seeker walked along the mountain ridge, wind brushing his robe. He paused, gazing at the horizon painted in fading gold. He whispered, "Every step is home." The teacher's silhouette stood behind him, serene against the sky. The fellow disciple walked beside him, her presence steady, a reflection of harmony. The skeptic followed distantly, his face shadowed but softened by silence. The silent witness leaned against a boulder, still as the mountains themselves. The seeker spread his arms slightly, the wind carrying his breath. "I am not seeking," he whispered. "I am being." The bells from the temple faintly echoed through the valley, blending with the wind. The world and his heart felt inseparable, bound in stillness. The night returned, quiet and endless. The seeker sat alone at the temple courtyard, gazing at the stars. He whispered, "I am not lost, I am here." His words carried softly into the stillness. The teacher watched from the veranda, silent and approving. The fellow disciple rested near the cedar tree, her eyes closed in calm. The skeptic stood at the gate, his gaze contemplative, no smirk left to wear. The silent witness sat cross-legged under the moonlight, his stillness timeless. The seeker breathed deeply, the air filling him with peace. "Here is enough," he whispered again, his voice steady. The temple bell rang once, blending with the hum of the night. The stars shimmered above, eternal guardians of his awakening.